Hi guys, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery, and I'm located in Van.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Highland Heights, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
All right, we are live.
We're live.
Becca is with me, and we have a guest.
Huzzah.
Welcome back, Trevor. Now I feel like I should have confirmed Doherty.
Yep, you got it.
All right, good.
Oh,
I
that's
was
Happy to
one
like,
be
for
here.
oh my
three.
gosh, I had two things that I said wrong earlier, and I should have confirmed that, and I did not, but I got it, so we're good. We're good. It was like a
I don't
50-50.
I don't think I would have gotten it. I'm gonna be
That's
completely
fine.
honest.
Tricky
Those
Irish name. It happens.
those
Hmm,
those guys, man.
man. All right, so Trevor is back.
Thanks
He
for having me.
joined us all the way back on episode 122 in November of 2021. It's been a while.
Wow.
Okay,
So, for folks that don't know you, do you want to reintroduce yourself?
sure. My name's Trevor Daugherty. I live in northern Indiana, in Goshen, where I am a studio potter focused on soda-fired wares and kind of everyday pots that people use for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Mhm.
Also, the executive director of the Northern Indiana Clay Alliance, which is a 501c3 nonprofit that represents over 150 clay artists in northern Indiana and southern Michigan and throughout the United States, people who call northern Indiana home, and father of two, of a spouse who's also an art teacher, and also the publisher of a magazine called Edible Michiana, which is a
Sweet.
quarterly magazine that focuses on food and culture in northern Indiana and Southwest Michigan.
And
Sweet.
also the owner of maybe the coolest house and best furniture.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Support
Yes.
that. Second.
Yes. So, yeah.
The edible Michiana, we just you kind of got me connected with edible when I was there visiting
Hmm.
a while ago. And then we actually started advertising with Edible Ohio Valley, which they're
Yep.
kind of like separately owned, but
Right.
similar in kind of the vibes and the themes of kind of what you all promote in the small business and
Hmm.
farm to table kind of stuff. So thanks for the rec, and then we've been advertising in there for the Spring Pottery Fair the last couple years, and then we're gonna start advertising for some other ones coming up. So
Nice.
it's a good
Nice.
avenue for us to
Yeah.
get the
People who
folks that
love
are
food
interested
generally
in
love
that.
art.
Right.
Food is
Because we
art.
have because we have a empty bowls event coming up, and I was like, I think we should promote in the edible here for like it's perfect for that
Right.
event to get people
Yeah.
to get tickets for it and appreciate the handmade. So we chatted back in 2021, and we talked a lot about your certified work, your business, and I wanted to thank you because since then I visited your studio. I was looking back when it was because I was trying to like piece together when the soda kind of bug hit me. And I visited you in October of 2022, I think,
Yep.
for like 4 or 5 days, something like that. We fired a Cone 10 soda. And then since then, I've just been like off to the
Poof.
races with going to Isaac's to help build the soda kiln, built my own here at the house, have been firing it a bunch, doing workshops. So like, I want to thank you for kind of like helping like open that door and willingly like let me come and try it out and see what it's all about. So, and I saw that you're doing a soda firing this week, I think.
Yep. Trying to squeeze one in this week. Got a really cool wedding order from someone who's giving every one of their guests a unique soda-fired mug
Oh.
with their name on it. So it's kind of a cool thing. One of those
Ooh.
neat things that comes out of being around
How are you keeping the name visible without the atmosphere covering it up?
on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Yep.
With
Man,
slip or with underglaze or what? Or stamped?
Stamped. Yep.
Stamped. Okay.
I've done name mugs and they are tricky sometimes because if one gets fucked,
Yep.
you're fucked. Yep.
Crossing my fingers for those who can
Well,
see.
two
How
be
many are there? Well, there's probably only one of each name, right? So you're kind of
yeah.
just
Sorry, I should
Two,
hoping for the
clarify.
best.
It is the bride and groom's name.
Oh, okay, okay.
oh,
But
okay. I
do you have
thought
like two of each, or do you just have one of each?
Uh, I'm making 75
for
and
each.
Oh, with
with
just the
all their
bride and
names
groom's
on.
names on the bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
I don't
got a
know who you
little
guys use for stamps, but I've been using Stampty and it's been awesome.
have you I kind of I like rubber stamps for doing it into clay, but
Hmm.
I just get little I think I've mostly
Is
done like numbers and stuff. I haven't done a lot of Are they rubber or are they wood or what?
They're 3D
yeah.
printed,
3D printed.
Oh.
Okay.
so they're really crisp, which is
Yeah.
nice for removing from.
And it's probably all together because it's 3D printed. All the
Mhm.
name is in one, so it's not you're not
Yep.
individually stamping.
And you can do, I
Yeah.
mean, you can upload anything.
Huh.
Is your signature stamp from them too, or is that a
It
different?
is now. Yeah.
Yeah. I really
Okay.
love those like metal ones. Like Ryan has a metal one for his signature stamp, which I really love. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I
That one's
love,
from
I mean,
forclay.com, I
Right.
think.
yeah, but 3D printing is so great for something that's like, you know, not
Mhm.
permanent. And I mean like it's still pretty permanent. Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
probably cost effective, I suspect, because I think my metal one is $50 custom. But it's my signature, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna have it for years as long as I don't break it. But
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, these start at 30. But again, it's so crisp and the plastic
Yeah.
does a really nice job with the wet clay. Kind of
Oh
surprised
yeah.
me,
mm,
but it's good. Anyways,
yeah, I think
Nice.
I was doing some cornstarch back in the day with the wood ones, and that was good. But 3D print, I think I did some cornstarch with that too. But yeah, I got one order before for the soda. Somebody wanted a soda fired with "Love You" on the bottom for like a 50-year anniversary, so I did soda fire those. I think there was four or six or something, but I did the bottom as well and did like an underglaze wash in them
Oh
because I was
yeah.
worried about the glaze running and capturing, but luckily they got through the kiln and
nice.
nothing major wrong there. So
Yeah, my apologies to listeners if they weren't wanting a stamp tutorial off the bat.
Right.
so you're firing cone 10 soda. Has anything majorly changed in like what you're looking to do with the soda firings these days? I know back in when I visited you that was a few years ago, but we were doing some glazing, some slip work. Are you experimenting with certain things these days?
Yeah, I've largely gone away from glazing entire pieces. I'm doing a lot of shape decoration on the surfaces, and I'm primarily using a soda formulated clay from Continental that I really like. It's a little rougher, a little more grog in it, but flashes really well. I've also changed the way that I'm introducing soda into the kiln. Uh, I forget her last name. If you search Emily soda firing, you'll find her. But she does she introduces it on slats of wood.
Mm.
Um, and I've been doing it that way, and it's really it's done two things for me. It's stopped me from sitting there and spraying soda for 2 hours, which
Mm,
is a bear in the summer. Um,
Emily
and
Murphy, is that who it
yeah,
is? Okay.
and then introducing it into the kiln on slats of wood, so you get a little more reduction, which I'm always after, and you just do it like a line on the, for lack of a better term, on the piece of wood. Put it right in the back by the burner. It does the rest.
And
And that's been really nice.
you're still stoking that for just a few minutes at a time, and then
Yeah,
you're kind of like done with it. Sort of like what I'm doing with like an angle iron
that's
and
right.
dumping it. You're just using the slats of wood to get it in there.
Yeah, the nice thing about this is the way that my kiln is built, if you use an angle iron or something like that where you're dumping it, it tends to just sit on the bottom and not
Mm-hmm.
vaporize as much. But using this dry mixture on top of wood, it, vaporizes instantly and moves through. So it's been a good thing, and I really like how it has a more natural effect on the pots as opposed to when you're spraying. you're kind of forcing the action there,
Hmm.
which I don't like as much. So it's been a good change. It's
So
still.
does it so then it relies on the flame to naturally circulate it,
Mhm.
and it like it's kind of like a slow release a little bit as it burns,
Certainly, yeah.
more so than the water spraying because it's like vaporizing immediately
Hmm.
or it's sticking immediately.
And when you're spraying, you always run the risk of cracking pots. It's just you got to be constantly moving around, and it's been 90 degrees here, and it's just brutal to do that for an hour or two.
Right.
So this is just better for my phase of life and just my own desire to stand out by the kiln.
Right. Yeah, I did a workshop this past weekend and there was a student that was asking what, she'd attended a number of different soda, lectures or workshops, and she was asking why I dump it on an angle iron versus spraying and like the benefits. And I was, kind of taking me back to when I was with you, the spraying, it you kind of have to have ports all over the kiln, so it's a little
Mhm.
limiting there. And then you also it's not circulating as much, and just the clogging of the thing and dissolving it in
Right.
water and all that stuff. I was like, I just got comfortable doing this, but also I haven't done a ton of the other. But I remember mixing everything up with you, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to risk like spraying it and siphoning it, and
Yeah.
it's just
And you're
pretty
not
pretty
creating this
involved.
giant plume of, some sort of chlorine mixture into the air that you probably shouldn't be breathing anyway. So I mean, at least I feel like it's a little better in that regard too.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. So the soda's going, and how are you changing anything with how you're selling your pots these days? Since then? It's been 3 years since then, but
Yep. I've backed off Etsy. Uh, I couldn't quite nail it being worth my time, which I think is more a commentary on my own life than necessarily anything on their end. Want to give a shout out to Lauren Hidalgo at Aware Shop. She is building an Etsy alternative, um,
mm,
Oh,
and really trying to. I don't want to say do it in the opposite way of what Etsy does, but she's just trying to make a more equitable space for sellers. So I've joined her on there, and it's been awesome. She's been great to work with. She drop ships everything. So I get her inventory and then she takes care of it.
what's
Uh,
the name of it?
Aware Shop, like
Aware
aware and shop.
Aware Shop.
it's a wear shop.
Yeah, good little play on words both ways.
Yeah,
Okay.
like wheel talk.
Nice. Okay. I'll keep that jotted down.
So she's been awesome, and it's just really cool. Even if sales are different, in different ways with her, I get to contact her directly if I have concerns. And dealing with a human is really
Yeah.
nice. Um, so it's been a good change. And then I continue to take custom orders. I know that that's everyone has different opinions on that, but that's one of my favorite things. I love working
Hey,
with
if it works for
clients.
you, it works for you.
Yep, love working with clients, particularly on dinner sets or these things like these wedding mugs, projects that are really personal. Um, that's kind of the sweet spot for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of it for me is just feel like you kind of know if they're on board with giving you the freedom to like they trust you to come up with something great, or they come prepared with this is what I like of your stuff and this is what I would like to my idea, and finding a mix between them rather than I have an idea. I don't know any other potters or people that work in clay. So I'm going to you because I know you do that. So
Yep.
can you help me out?
And soda firing is a great out of that conversation because the baseline is every pot's going to be different. And if you're not
Yeah.
down with that, then I'm not your person. We've got these great potters around me, and one of them will fire an electric kiln and give you exactly what you want. So that has also been a good kind of salve for that conversation.
Right. And it's nice to have a couple people in your back pocket of
Yeah.
referring. I mean, that's where if you have a community that a lot of different folks around that are have different skill sets and oh well somebody really cares about plates or butter bells or whatever the form is and you're like okay I got somebody that I can refer you to and it doesn't feel like you're just leaving them hanging. You're giving them some next step that they can
Yep.
try to solve their problem or what they're looking for.
Hmm.
Nice. All right, so speaking of community, you mentioned the Northern Indiana Clay Alliance earlier when we started. For folks that aren't familiar with it, I know you briefly mentioned that it's about 150 artists. It's a 501c
Close enough.
501c3.
Yep.
Um, kind of where did the organization start? Maybe what led you all up to creating it, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, there's really two starting points to the story. The more recent one is that the Michiana Pottery Tour, which you've both have participated in over the years, started 15 years ago as really a marketing scheme amongst 4 or 5 clay artists here to bring attention to their studios on a single weekend in September. And it really started as just a couple folks pooling few $100s together, taking out some radio ads and saying, we're going to be open on these 2 days in September. You should come out and check our work. And pretty quickly, it grew from a handful of artists to about 30 over that first 10 years. And COVID was kind of the major marker in our history of how the Pottery Tour has developed. I think after 2020, when we were not in person, there was a real sense of wanting to bring community together and kind of putting energy into not only connections between artists, but also trying to sell more pots. So pretty quickly, we've grown from about 30 artists to now 60 artists uh, on the Pottery Tour, 4 or 5 host stops. Now we're at 10, and um, it's grown notably over the last couple of years. We've never collectively sales have never gone backwards in each of the 15 years, and now we sell over $120,000 worth of pots in that weekend,
Oh,
Whew,
yeah.
which I'm pretty
shit,
proud of.
that's a lot.
Yeah, and the struggle then is that as you grow from 5 stops, 15 artists or so to 10 stops and 60 artists, that's a lot of administrative work. That's a lot of
Oh
fees
yeah.
that are collected, which has tax implications if you're not kind of organized amongst yourselves. It puts a lot of weight on the single organizer, and if they're a volunteer, burnout happens. There's a lot to that as it
And then
grows.
and then each host has their own little ecosystem of how they want to manage things, how they want to do, who they want involved or, who they want to bring back or invite. I'm sure there's a lot there of which artists make the cut and which ones don't.
Right. And yeah, from a policy perspective, carrying insurance, there's a lot of considerations in today's today's world. So
Right.
uh come 2021, we really started to have this conversation once I joined as a host of, how do we go forward? That also coincided with some of our hosts getting older, some of them retiring from, a kind of a daily studio practice. And it was just an opportunity to revisit kind of the structure of it. And when it came specifically to the finance side of it, we needed a proper bank account, organizational structure. So developing a 501c3 really kind of answered the call there. It also opened the door for us to accept sponsorships and funding from foundations and visitors bureaus, all of which, require a nonprofit status to take that money in. So that really became obvious to us that that would be the direction we would go. We did most of that work in 2022 and opened the doors virtually uh, on January 1st of 2023. We don't have a physical space at this point, so that has largely been just an organization that operates online. Um, I'll just briefly then back up from there to say in the 1970s, a man by the name of Marvin Bartel arrived here in Goshen, and he kind of started this community of clay artists. And now there are hundreds of clay artists across the United States who have come through this area as students, as visiting artists, as practicing artists here locally who call this home. And one of the things we wanted to do is capture that energy. Um, Marvin passed away last year, and that was another kind of momentum shift for us to get ourselves organized because I think what we have here is pretty special with the number of clay artists we have around. And one of the things that was important was to organize ourselves, make sure we have a kind of log of our history, which is pretty notable, which is helpful for other things that we do, and getting the nonprofit off the ground to do those things was also a part of that.
It
So
is really
long
oh,
history there. Yeah. 10 years to 50 artists, 60 artists, and now there's way more things than just the pottery tour because that's a one time a year thing, but there's a lot of administrative and just the big decisions that need to be made at that scale
Yep.
that having that organization is very important for that. Go ahead, Becca.
oh, I was gonna say it is so funny. I was at Jesse's stop last year and the year before, and it's so funny to go to different potters and just like I had to set up the whole square situation for him and because he had no clue because he has his own system, and I was like, no, I think this is what they want, like, and he was like, I don't know how to do that. No, and like we worked together on it, obviously, but um, it's funny to see those people that are typically used to working with themselves having to you know, like share the information with somebody else and do all
Yep.
that stuff. And I mean, it's good. It's great. It's a learning experience and it's awesome. And there's
I
pretzels.
mean, one of the big things that I've had to do is be intentional about messaging not only to the public but to our members about, this is about building community first and foremost and looking out for each other because what we're trying to do is tough enough as it is. So,
Yeah.
sometimes those things like sharing data or being vulnerable about what's happening, that's a different mark for every human to hit. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm really proud of the group that we have has really leaned into that kind of recognition that we're better together than we are apart. Um,
Yeah.
but that's not an easy thing to always convince people of.
Yeah.
So with it like that 2020, 2021, that kind of incubation of the ideas and everything, how did you like what are the influences that led you all to did you each have your own experiences with different like guilds or how did you know like you wanted to go the 501c3 route versus just hey, we're just going to get together, we're going to pay dues and
Mhm.
we're going to organize somehow or, what is membership look like? What are your all's influences leading into that gave you all the confidence of this is how we want to structure it?
Mhm. There were two things. One, my co-founder of the Northern Indiana Clay Alliance is Justin Roshank, who brings a wealth of this type of organizational experience. He founded the Union Project in Pittsburgh in the early 2000s, which is about to celebrate its 25th year. And he has been around the world to different studios, different tours, different organizations, and he has seen a lot of different examples because there are a lot of different ways to do it. The other part of it is the Community Foundation of Elkhart County, which is the county that I live in, is one of the largest county foundations in the United States. And the great thing that they do is move an idea from, the first napkin at a bar to a proper organization. That's one of their strengths. And they came alongside of us, helped us with the legal paperwork, all of those things, and said, if you want to do this and you have bigger goals eventually of raising money or bringing people here for residencies or whatever it may be, you need to have a proper structure, particularly from a legal standpoint. And you could do for profit, but that of course limits a lot of different funding opportunities. Um, so it was really those two things coming together, Justin's personal experiences, and then to have this behemoth of a foundation behind us saying, this is how you should do this. I think it was wise for us to listen to them.
Is the Elkhart Foundation a private organization, or is that part of the like the government or the like
It's a
offerings
fully
of the
private
city or
granting organization. They do every part of kind of the gamut of granting from art programs for kids to things for retirees to sculptures in a park. They kind of do everything. And about 15 years ago, there was an individual, a single man who had had quite a bit of professional success, passed away, and he left several $100 million to them as his
wow.
only place that he put money when he died. And it has completely transformed our county and really northern Indiana. And now they, have this financial endowment that allows them to support a wide range of things. Um,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
Wow, yeah. Because it sounds different. It's not a chamber of commerce sort of situation. It's something
yep,
different because it is nonprofit, non-for-profit,
yep.
entities and trying to build that community and that like, that's um yeah, just community focused.
Hmm.
Hmm. How did you all decide how you wanted to like organize the the decision makers, the board, or at that level? Because we have the clay lines here in Cincinnati. I don't th We're not a 501c3. We're a not for profit, but not a non-profit. So we have a little
What's the
different.
difference?
You probably know more about that than I do, Trevor. What's the difference?
Yeah, certainly accounting, taxing, those kind of things are all handled differently with the different 501s. There's a whole bunch of different letters that go at the end that mean different things. Um, as far as organization is concerned, that burden that was placed on the single individual who was planning Pottery Tour just became untenable. So we really wanted to try to make the decision-making process more flat amongst a subsection of members, our population, and kind of art stakeholders. So our board has 10 people on it. Justin's the president. We have 4 artists. We have 4 business people, and then we have 2 folks who are uh, just involved in community organizations, and they set
Mhm.
all of our policies, um, which is really good for a lot of different reasons. It, as the executive director, holds me to account. They set the policies and I put them into action. But also, if someone's frustrated with a decision or the way that I do something, I'm able to say, "This is the policy that I'm acting on." And if you have feedback, we're glad to take that to the board, and then that process can play out. So there's really a protection both ways. That's really helpful for these type of things.
Yo, 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 coming to you from my hammock. I am just interrupting to remind you guys of how awesome L&L is. I think we all know this, obviously. But, if you just needed a reminder, I thought I'd point out a few awesome facts. For one, if you're a beginner, an L&L is such a great option. And the reason is because you can just get a kiln and just fire it. You don't have to figure out how to use the controller. It's easy. I've explained how to do it over the phone, and it's just a breeze, right? Number two, you can get something like the plug-in fire, and that means that you can plug it into your garage, your laundry room, someplace that maybe has just a regular plug. Super, super convenient. And Number three, there's many more, but I figured, we would start with three, is that you can find pretty much everything you need to know if you have a question online. They have a very comprehensive website that has all the answers that you'd ever need, not only just for an L&L kiln, but for every kiln. And it's pretty awesome. So, yeah, just wanted to let you know. All right. You can find it all at hotkilns.com.
Yeah, I like that cross section of, the people that have maybe been around a while at that, like a Justin, and then there's artists that are kind of like in the weeds, maybe earlier in their careers, or maybe a mixture, and then there's people that aren't even in, not necessarily in clay, that may
Right.
have the like business structure or, organization
I
experience
have,
that can provide insight.
yeah, I've quickly found having a lawyer, having an accountant on the board, they bring a different, viewpoint to all of these questions, but also it brings us a level of legitimacy that you just don't have when it's just five or six artists. That's just the way the public is. So that's been good in both directions.
So how is Pottery Tour organized these days? Is it a board decision making, and then there's items delegated to the different hosts, or how does it, so it's not one central point of,
Yep.
one person that takes all that burden?
Yeah, so Pottery Tour is our event in September. This is the first year we have an event every quarter. So our calendar has filled up. So from an administrative load, that has really changed a lot pretty quickly in 3 years. Um, as far as Pottery Tour proper is concerned, uh, we have essentially a calendar that works backwards from that last weekend of September, and hosts know along the way what they need to do. 1st of July, I've got to get t-shirt sizes. By the middle of July, I've got to start, getting my pictures of work uploaded to the system we have for promotion, to make posters, to do all of those things. August 1st, I've got to do this, and so we've set up a system that is very predictable for them and also holds them accountable to make sure that they're getting their work done. Tell them back in the spring, here are the things that are going to happen throughout the year. So being organized in that way, it doesn't solve all of the problems, but you don't want to be the person who lets the group down. That bit of social pressure also plays in. As far as setting the policies for Pottery Tour, that's been the nice thing about having a board is now we have these things in place where if a host chooses to not continue with us for the next year, we have a waiting list. And it's, by seniority of who's been on Pottery Tour the longest, and we go to the next person in line. We ask them. If they say yes, we have to have unanimous consent from the other hosts. We all vote, and if it's yes, then we move on. And if it's not, then we have another process that kind of resolves that situation. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily not a no for that person. We want to work through that if there's concerns. But having those things written out, it just makes it really easy.
Yeah, it's such a large event. It's definitely been interesting to, because I attended as a guest a few years, I think 3 years ago, and
Yep.
then or maybe it was 2 years ago, and then last year participating in it at your stop, and then I'll be back again this year at your stop. So it's definitely different to just see the different stops, and everybody's got, a different assortment of work, and there's a cycling through of regional people that you're not generally going to see their work in person unless you see it at NCICA or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's really a high caliber level of work that you all attract for it. So it is really something different than just going to an art show that happens to have ceramics at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're really, there are a few other ones that have popped up in the Midwest, but as far as kind of our 4 or 5 state area here, we kind of stand alone in the fall, as far as clay is concerned, which is nice. And the growth, I think, really speaks for itself. There's been good word of mouth. I think, getting policies nailed down has really helped with that. When, you hear about it from somebody who's been, I think typically the feedback is positive. Maybe if anything, it's that things are too stringent. Um, but I'd rather be there than not. And we currently have
What's too stringent? Like the hosts have to have like five and only five people, or we can't add too many stops that are in too close of a proximity, or like.
it's not necessarily the host situation, although we've capped it at 10 because we're pretty sure we can't get to more than 10 stops in 2 days, if you're a
Mm,
shopper.
Mm,
Um, just collection of data is really important from a granting perspective when you're writing grants.
mm,
Every dollar that we receive requires a follow-up report about the event, and they look at those reports as they start to think about the following year. So if I just say, "Oh, it was a good event, and you should trust me," that's not a very strong report. And if I were the person giving the money, I would want to hear more than that. So being able to offer now, 15 years of historical data on spending, and we increasingly have more information about where people come from, um, and things like that, is really helpful towards building up the strength of the event. And we don't get a lot of pushback about that. I think it's a pretty easy conversation to have, but I think inherently potters tend to be fairly closed in about data. I mean, Ryan, you do a great job of sharing,
hmm
but that's certainly not everybody. Um, so creating a system of trust between me and the hosts, and helping them understand I'm not sharing your data with other artists. I'm not comparing publicly or anything like that. This is strictly part of the process of trying to, build our organization and raise awareness. And that typically is fine.
Right. And if artists want to know, they can do quick numbers. I mean, you said 120,000, 60 artists. That's, quick math. You can figure out what the average is
Yep.
and then see where you fall, above, average, below,
Hmm.
and kind of use that. But also, it's like, where's your stop located? Like, there's so many variables that's going to impact that.
Right. We've had, we still have original tour stops from 15 years ago, and some of those individuals have been making pots here for 50 years. So that's another aspect of just building a network and longevity. You're going to have some advantages. And what I
Hmm
would say to, newer folks is how lucky are we that we have those veterans around us who can help build up our own profile? It's kind of that collective mindset of if we were all starting from scratch, those could be some pretty lonely, lonely shows. But because we have these people who are so well known nationally and internationally in some cases, we're able to lean on their success and kind of build up our own profile.
Right. So that kind of relates to what what some of the benefits of being in like an organization that keeps you kind of tighter than just being a solo artist in your own studio, and maybe you pass by one another at shows. Like, what do
Mhm.
you personally or professionally have you gained from being in an organization that's the Northern Indiana Clay Alliance, or just, the group as a whole
Mhm.
over the years?
Well, from just kind of a top level view, you're getting 4 events in a year. Our membership is $250. Uh, So you get one event per quarter where you're selling pots, and I certainly hope you're making that back in one event. That's, I think, generally the case. Um, we have one of our events that's this Saturday at the Ruthmere Museum in Elkhart, where their board of directors has said it's so important for us to make this easy for artists. We're going to give them a $50 check when they walk in the door to cover their gas and their meal,
Mm,
and they provide tents, they provide tables, chairs, drinks. So if you look at that event alone, $50 comes off your membership. So now you're down to $200 for 4 shows. I mean, from my perspective, that's a pretty good return. As far
yeah,
as
that's not too bad.
what else you get, you get an annual meetup amongst or sorry, quarterly meetup amongst our members. So, like we said, typically potters are working by themselves or they don't even have time to get out. And that has been really cool to watch, every 3 months. a fairly broad cross section of our membership gets together, and we have a meal, we have drinks and hang out, and there's nothing like fellow potters to understand the struggle or what's going well, or I got this huge order and then I dropped half of them while I was taking it to the kiln. Everybody's
Hmm.
like, man, that sucks.
Hmm.
And just to have that level of community, I think has been more meaningful than maybe any of us anticipated. You think it'll be cool to get together, but it's really been a good support for people. And then, I send out a newsletter at least each quarter with opportunities. Some of that is the things that we put on, but I'm about to send out a newsletter here in a week or so, and it's going to have a list of granting opportunities that I would like members to look into because granting is more tough than ever right now. Um, so, it's those type of things that when you put it all together, I think it's a pretty good value proposition. Um, I don't think we'll add any more programming than what we're at. One per quarter is, I think, kind of the limit of what people are interested in. And we have some who don't even participate in all of them. But continuing to think about how do you add value at that price is a continual task that we're talking about.
Right. It's difficult to know where to draw the lines at because like the email newsletter you're talking about, like I get a lot of value just reading through that, even though a lot of it is regional to
Yep.
Northern Indiana, which I'm far enough away that I'm like, I can't get up there
Yeah.
all the time. But, just getting access to seeing grant opportunities, for instance, or
Mhm.
oh, they're doing an artist meetup here, or, these are the other gallery shows you have access to, or, some things that could appeal for people that
Mhm.
aren't immediately in that area, or workshop opportunities. I know you all have those come across as well.
Yeah. And I should note that for years, the Pottery Tour as a single event before our organization started, that was $200 for that alone. So if you're, a long time participant in Pottery Tour, you've gotten three more events for $50, essentially.
Hmm.
So I also feel really good about that.
Yeah, because the clay lines here locally, we kind of flip it opposite. We do $30 for the year, and then you pay per item that you add on. So if you do the spring pottery fair, you pay at max 160 bucks for the day to sell at it. Or holiday fair is like 90 bucks. Or
Yeah.
you could be in the gallery, which is every month we have a gallery show art walk for you could do 90 bucks for the whole year.
Yeah.
And then there's commissions involved. So I was curious if you all went through that thought process of, do we go low and then add on the prices versus one fee and just build it in so much value that they're just going to want to pay it, even though it seems kind of inverse of what a lot of organizations do. Or maybe there's not a lot
Right.
of organizations that do it differently, but
So I should say we have two other membership levels. We have a teacher and a student at 50, which we have a decent amount who are interested in that. And that gets you access to everything but the shows. So our meetups, the resources, discounted workshops when we put those on. Members always get $50 off workshops. Um, and that's a great way to kind of get involved. And then we have a $100 level that is primarily for people who want to support the organization but are not artists. So we call that the friend level. So there are, lower level from a monetary perspective to get in. As far as the payment is concerned, that was, I think, twofold that both have to do with the health of the organization. Having that be one fee is far easier from an administrative perspective
oh
than I
yeah.
think what you're describing. Um, and we've tried to really shape the calendar so that people are getting in at the beginning of the year. So even from a renewal perspective, trying to offload a lot of that work to one quarter. And then just the other part of it, I think is that from a budgeting perspective, it makes it much more predictable.
Mm,
Like for us when we started out, knowing we're going to have 50, 60 people on Pottery Tour who are instantly members, well, we know what that number is from a budget perspective.
right.
So then we can work from there. Whereas, I think that something to be said for the other model you're mentioning is that it is more approachable for people. particularly who are not full-time artists.
Hmm.
Um, but that's just where we landed.
Yeah. I like having the option because it's kind of like these big memberships you pay for. Like you pay for a Costco membership and it's up to you to earn your, make it worth your while. So,
Yep.
all the opportunities are there. The newsletter's coming to your doorstep. You know what's available. You
Yep.
got plenty of time to join
Hmm.
and you can, you know, do your best to get involved. And then if you don't want to renew for the next year, you don't renew. But it does make it a lot more predictable because I'm the treasurer of the Clay Alliance here, and
Yep.
it is a lot of work to work with the committees to be like, all right, we got to get the square shop opened up so we can accept payments for these
Right.
booths and how many booths are we doing? Like, okay, what did we do last year? How much money was that? How do you budget for what marketing money are you going to spend? It is a lot.
And you have technical skills, Ryan. I mean, that's another part of it.
Right.
Like imagine,
Absolutely.
someone who
I,
doesn't.
I yeah, I'm the webmaster and the tech support and dollars and like yeah. It's
Yep.
a lot for organizations that a lot of them in our organization for sure has a lot of aging members that are, it becomes a lot to share and getting up to speed with, the even just we just started a MailChimp like a year and a half ago.
Sure.
We were doing this old outdated system, but yeah, and trying to delegate and spread the responsibility. Have you all had struggles with shared responsibility and how to keep people involved so that it's, I'm here to pay a membership versus I'm here to pay a membership and contribute voluntarily in some way, or, can you pay certain people for certain, tasks that they're doing?
So the board aspect of that has really helped. And the only other, thing where we're really asking people to take on additional work is pottery tour hosts. But otherwise, there's not really a sense of trying to shake the bushes for energy and time. Um, I've really found that the people who, if there's an interest in doing more, they're going to present themselves because they recognize that it's a way to get plugged in, and for some people, responsibility means opportunity. Um, so that has generally resolved itself pretty easily.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That's good to hear for sure. Because I think, yeah, the technical side of it is difficult in some aspects for keeping the lifeblood of the organization running. And you got the
Right.
mission, and then you've got the history of, you've been here
Mhm.
for a certain period of time. You kind of built the backbone of it, and it's time for the next generation to take it on
Yeah.
and keep it going. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and that
I
I
think
mean
you've ironed out a number of those different issues.
yeah. Yeah, having a board who is supportive and a mixture of artists and other professionals gives me a confidence when I, interact with someone who maybe has a question or a concern. And that energy and confidence that I give off, I find generally solves a lot of those questions. My default kind of baseline tends to be, how great is this that we have so many artists who want to do this together? Like this is a dream come true. I'd much rather do this than be by myself. To have support, and when I kind of bring that energy to any of those situations, it tends to diffuse itself.
Becca, do you have a question or anything? I'm
Dude, I just got comfy.
I know you
I'm
just got
like,
comfy. I thought you were settling in
it's a
like,
great
okay,
podcast. You guys are
I
doing
want to ask
fantastic.
something.
Also, I laid down and I was like, God, I hope Trevor doesn't think that I'm like disrespectful. It's just that I don't own a
Not at
She's
all.
couch.
not sleeping.
No, if I was sleeping, the camera would be off. I'd be like, oh, my internet sucks.
I had a question about some of the funding side of it. How does the nonprofit affect? I know you mentioned some grants and everything like that. You've also got the memberships that are helping fund. How does getting access to grant, like if you didn't have the nonprofit, would you all like what would you all be doing differently? Because I would guess that's kind of a hurdle for some people if they're trying to start a clay guild out there or organization. It might be a tough hill to climb.
Right. I mean, from a legal perspective, it really shuts off a lot of those opportunities. Just how the government tax code is written, you're not supposed to be collecting, those funds because typically people want to be writing off that they give, whether that's an organization or an individual. So if you don't have that other end of the equation for the tax form, it doesn't really work out. That's not to say that it doesn't happen, but again, our viewpoint from the beginning has been to try and do everything as professional as possible from that perspective.
And
Um,
by that you mean you can't get grant money because they're only set aside for 501c3.
you got it. Yep.
Okay. But there would just have to be other ways of fundraising or accessing money that's not considered a grant. And maybe I don't know. Are all grants dedicated to nonprofits?
Right.
Okay.
Essentially. I mean, anything that's of note, because the tax system tracks how money moves. So,
Hmm.
if you were to give $10,000 to someone, there might be a question about on someone's
Hmm.
end, what that's for and all that. So it just simplifies it, in that regard, and it's the right way to do it.
Okay. And then you take on the
It's
burden of the reporting, the record keeping, I don't know what's involved in like writing grant applications, but I suspect there's a little more
Yeah.
involved there.
It's a wide range. For a visitors bureau application for a single day event, that's usually pretty simple of who it is, who do you expect to come, how many, and kind of why. For a multi-year programming grant to give scholarships to underrepresented potters, that's a, maybe 10,000 word grant in total. Um,
wow.
you have to have a budget prepared. Sometimes there's an interview process. There's almost
Wow.
always follow-up questions about why this or why that. So it's a wide range, and I mean that's only talking about a grant that might hit $10,000. When you start to get in those higher dollar figures, it's a long process of interviews and reporting and a lot of different things that go into that. So it's
And you might have
grant
to cast
season.
that net to different organizations that are offering grants potentially.
I'm sorry, say it one more
And
time.
you're casting that specific grant maybe to different organizations that are
Mhm.
offering grants. So you might have to like not shop it around, but you might have to like try to get $5,000 here where they're offering something related, and then maybe $5,000 here, and just see which ones
Yep.
work and which ones don't.
That's right. So our visitors bureaus up here often offer about $1,000 for events. Our community foundations, which we're lucky to have a handful up here who are really strong, they may be closer to $10,000. And then most states have a visitors bureau. Many of them have economic development, you know, uh, consortiums of some kind who give out grants. And then in Indiana, we have the Indiana Arts Commission, which is a long-running granting organization that specifically supports events and organizations. Um,
Deanna works for them now.
yeah,
The Indiana
Yeah.
Arts Commission.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. She just got a job.
And she
I
did
don't
that
know if I'm allowed
previously,
to
I
say
think.
that.
And then
I,
maybe,
I think I'm allowed to say it. I'll text her after. But
I know she
yeah,
worked for one in Ohio at some point, I think.
no, she worked for the Indiana Arts Commission and then she quit and then she got I think she basically got her the old job back. You know,
Mm.
she's really good at that shit. Like she's
yeah.
super smart.
Yeah, grant writing is a skill and one that I did not have. Um,
But
I'm
now you do.
or at least am able to pretend. That's another thing of like this confidence that if you can put it out there that this is important, people tend to listen.
Yeah.
And it goes a long way. I was shocked how much in-person interaction was required to get
Mm.
money from people. So
I'm
my
sure
those
I'm sure that was great for you.
Right. Those skills for me have really grown. I've been forced to get better at it. And I appreciate that I at least, yeah, am not completely flop sweating all the time through those conversations. Um, but yeah, and it should be mentioned, right? Like, I don't think this is necessarily political, but just the reality that like grants for arts are going away. And
Yeah.
we're not experiencing that this calendar year yet, but most of the money that is given out by a county, by a state, comes from the federal budget,
Hmm.
and that's not going to be there next year. So not only are the budgets going to be smaller for tourism bureaus and arts commissions and those type of things, now the competition is going to be much higher for those grants
Right.
because, we've been around 3 years and I feel like I can tell a great story, but also I'm now competing with the orchestra that's been around for 75 years,
Right.
who has lost half of their budget because grants have disappeared. So it's a complex situation. And it's one of those things where like finding other revenue sources like members is a great way to build in some consistency. And I think it's another selling point to our members that I think going forward, some of those art shows that you've long counted on the calendar, some of them are going to go away. It's just the reality of the situation.
Hmm.
Or they're going to have to find other, funding to get it off the ground. So by us being in charge of kind of our own destiny by putting the programming on, I think is a big selling point too.
Yeah, you just have to figure out what levers you can adjust and, have the backup plans of, okay, we've
Yep.
got funding here. There's no guarantee it's going to continue
Yep.
just because it has historically. And then what do we do in that situation? Because I suspect you don't want to put it on members and say, okay, we're going to up the membership from 250 to 300.
Right. Yeah, I
And
think
then
we're
it's a
we're pretty
big,
much at the ceiling there.
so you got to figure out other ways. Yeah, we've been getting emails actively from, because I'm part of the Kentucky Crafted program, which is put on by the Kentucky Arts Council underneath the Kentucky government, and we get emails about the cuts to the National Endowment for the Arts and
Yep.
funding and getting, writing and visiting your representatives
Hmm.
and trying to. So I was putting out casting some nets to some of the events that I do in the state to say, hey, are you funded at all by this?
Hmm.
It'll kind of help reinforce some of the verbiage of how you go about like saying something to representatives about it. But
Hmm.
are you doing all of that communication in person just yourself on behalf of the organization as the executive director, or are there others that you can count on to help? Hey, we come in as a pair or delegate
Yeah.
it.
Justin, as board president, will go with me for, if it's a higher level meeting, they often want to see someone else besides me. Um, and Justin has broader name recognition than I do, so that makes sense as well. And it takes some of that pressure off of me. So it works well in both directions.
Hmm.
Um, but really lucky that over 3 years have built up enough relationships that now I can go to those granting organizations and they can come to me, and there's kind of an open lane of communication about it. And I don't think, while our funding levels may change in the future, I feel like the way that it's going to be communicated, it won't be a surprise, or I'll have more room, runway to react to budgetary changes because of the relationships we've built up. Um, so that's a good thing, I think.
How does the how much do you all do advertising or seeking out sponsors for different events as a different lever?
Hmm. So that's something that's a little trickier these days because, back 20, 30 years ago, if you donated $200 to an event, you would write that off on your taxes. Now the standard deduction has changed, and most people don't, write down each of their donations in a year because they're not over that. I think it's $25,000 that you get by default. So that aspect of donating has kind of changed. So for the average person, they're not giving that much money. So there's less reason to, I guess, less tax incentive to donate. Um, but we are still able to go to individuals who, see them at every, event we put on, and you say, "Hey, I've noticed you at Pottery Tour and our holiday sale. Um, would you be interested in supporting our event?" And some people like to have their names on it. Some people say, "No, I just want to be anonymous." Um, but definitely mixing up where the funding comes from goes a
Hmm.
long way.
And
Um,
that could be a shift of, hey, you support us as a friend option, like $100 for the year,
yep.
and you can, give them an option versus, or they
Mhm.
can say, hey, I want to put $500 to this specific event
Yeah.
or
And
whatever.
Goshen, where I'm located, and Elkhart County has a really healthy manufacturing community. We're known as the RV capital of the world.
Mm.
So because of that, there's really healthy philanthropy tradition over the last 40 or 50 years. So it's not a surprise for people to be approached about sponsorship opportunities in particular. So that part of it is nice. The flip side is that they're being asked regularly by all different kinds of events. So, building up those relationships is important.
Who did you, and you're talking about the grant, right? Who would you recommend, like, reaching out to or finding resources for that? Because it feels like a black box of, if you have that experience, you've been in those, you know, nonprofit
Hmm.
organizations and you've maybe been exposed to it, but as an individual artist that's maybe looking for grant, like, how do you get that expertise? Are there
Hmm.
organizations that offer free, like, mentorship or, a workshop or something like that?
Right. At least in Indiana, the Indiana Arts Commission has I forget if it's called like on-ramping, I think is what it's called, where they help artists specifically who want to expand their operation and learn about pursuing grants, so that they have a whole process that you can go through for coaching. And our local community foundation does that as well. They have events each quarter you can go to. Um, so I think again, it's dependent on some of that legacy infrastructure. The other part of it is that almost every grant application is read by artificial intelligence at this point.
Mm.
So it depends
Not
on.
true.
Say what?
Deanna reads them.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, maybe depends on the organization, but certainly the ones who are in the news,
Oh
um,
yeah.
they are saying, here are 10 target words we're interested in. Here are 10 target words that are disqualifiers. And,
Oh, okay.
the application goes in through that first. And then they look at the ones
Mm.
that, don't have the disqualifying words, uh, and go through that process with them. So it's a whole different animal than it even was 5 years ago, from that perspective.
What would be a target word that would be like bad?
Potters, let's talk about kiln shelves. If you're still dealing with heavy, fragile, or warped shelves, it's time for an upgrade. Advancer kiln shelves are the thin, lightweight, and ultra-durable solution you've been looking for. Made from nitride-bonded silicon carbide, these shelves are stronger than traditional shelves, but a fraction of the weight, saving your back and maximizing your kiln loading space. They also have much better thermal conductivity than cordierite shelves, allowing for more efficient firings. And cleanup? That's a breeze. Their smooth, non-porous surface resists glaze runs, meaning less scraping and more time making. Advancer kiln shelves come in a variety of sizes for top and front-loading kilns. Becca uses hers in her small L&L plug-and fire kiln, while Ryan uses his in top-loading electric and soda kilns. If you're serious about pottery for the long term, fire smarter and increase your overall productivity with Advancer kiln shelves. Visit kilnshelf.com to learn more and level up your kiln today.
Any of the words that you would probably guess are in the cultural discourse right now. Certainly DEI and equity and anything related to opportunity. Um,
Uh,
so when I think about writing a grant, those are things that are important to our organization because we want to give opportunity to anyone who's interested in clay. I don't really care where you came from. I
Yeah,
would
the
I
word
would
opportunity is too vague to just make that disqualifier.
Yeah, so you start to think about, okay, how do I stay true to the values of our organization and priorities that our board has set forward? And how do I write a grant application that doesn't get kicked out before a human actually looks at it? So
wow.
that's a whole new part of this kind of world we're in right now of and it's not even just all of those hot button topics. There's other things that grant organizations just don't see as priorities in 2025 that maybe they did 3 or 4 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, so that's again where if you can get a relationship with a human who can help you work through and give clues about what type of applications they want to see, that goes a really long way. Whereas if you're just applying for the first time on a web form to an organization you've never applied to before, that's going to be an uphill battle.
Are those submissions also like a one and done? It's not a send it back to us. It's like you do your best to get everything accounted for that you can and then submit it once.
It really varies. So those, I mean, the ones that I consider to be that we deal with that are the highest level, you typically get assigned someone from the organization who's going to give you some coaching
Hmm.
through the process. And that was one of the things that was a real learning experience for me. I came into it with the mindset of these people are looking for a reason to not give me money. That was my mindset when I started filling these grant
Hmm.
applications out. I thought, oh, they're gonna be looking for reasons to say, oh, they're just getting started. We'll come back to them, or whatever it may
Hmm.
be. And what I quickly found with our biggest supporters is it was the exact opposite. I was assigned, a program officer at a foundation or at a granting organization, and they coached me through the entire process. And in those cases, it was their job to help me succeed. And that was a big mental shift for me that I didn't
Okay.
anticipate.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would suspect that there would be a sense of, oh, well, you're a novice. This sounds like your first grant written application. So
Yep.
you're not there yet. You need to go through a few more iterations to get there, and then we'll approve what you've written. But it sounds like it's more nurturing and coaching involved. Or maybe it's do you also get feedback if it's like we're not going to accept it, but here's what we were looking for, or here's why we couldn't you didn't make the cut, or
Right. There's almost always a feedback form. They're usually scored, each category 1 to 5. You get to see that. The Indiana Arts Commission actually scores it live on YouTube, uh,
whoa.
which is
So
pretty
it's transparent
crazy.
for everybody. You can see your competition.
Yep. So they go through each application.
Wow.
You may not be able to see the scoring, but the discussion is live,
Wow,
which
that's
is
great.
which is really helpful. And again, that's like a mindset thing of like I could be sitting there grumbling about somebody else's application, but if my mindset is I'm going to learn from what the feedback
Oh
is for
yeah.
others, that's going to serve us better.
That sounds like sitting in a live
Yeah.
jury application process for art shows. It's like it feels so blind and obscure of like what goes into this, and you get a score back. You just get you were invited, you're not invited, you're on a wait list. Like that's it. And then you're like, what goes on there?
And
Like
some
what?
of them are like that. There's one person in a black box somewhere who's, stamping these decisions. But the ones that I think you really want to be working with anyways have that kind of culture of cultivation.
Hmm. Are those organizations as well losing staffing over time since you've been working with them, where we don't have as many people to look at applications, so it's a little tougher with besides just the money allocation, there's less money to be allocated?
I mean, that's yet to be seen. I think that that's going to be, a result that will be more broadly kind of trackable next year when
Hmm.
budgets, trickle down and hit in 2026. Uh, it granting organizations seem to be a little bit of, for lack of a better term, this is a little harsh, but have and have nots of like if they've got $100 million in their endowment, they've got the money for staffing. If
Mm,
it's a smaller organization, which can be just as valuable to the cause, but if it's just two people in an office, their workflow is just going to be different. Um,
mm,
so again, it's that kind of like open mind and not discounting anyone in either direction because I would still like to have a small grant of $500, just as much as I would like to have, some of the other grants. All money is good money in this business.
right. So does the Clay Alliance help early career potters or makers like with access to apprenticeships or pairing people up or something like that for those early and maybe recent college graduates or whatnot? Are they helping in that aspect at all?
So one of the formalized things of having an organization is we offer these emerging artist scholarships, which gets you access to everything for a year. Um, and
Mm.
that's a application process we do in January, and then gets scored by a group that rotating committee in February. And the only kind of thing that we put on that is you have to be a practicing artist for under 10 years and a full-time artist for under 5.
Mm.
So no age requirements or anything like that. So we give out 10 of those a year. And that's been a really good way for us to give opportunity to people, but also like get exposure to new audiences. It makes it a lot easier for people from further away to come to our events when, if you're just starting out and the event is free,
Right.
as opposed to putting the money out. And then we're also, trying to provide them with some housing, if they're an emerging artist, while they're here. So take that hotel kind of out of the equation. Um,
Mm.
because I think our viewpoint is if they have a great experience, they're going to go back and tell somebody, and that's only going to serve us well. You never know who's going to hear that they had a great experience. It could be another artist, it could be someone who wants to donate, could be a collector who wants to buy pots. So it's a good investment for us too.
Okay. So it's getting them that $250 membership as well as some stipend in some ways to for housing
Yep.
or travel,
Yep.
and then just getting them access because a lot of folks don't have the ability to travel a long ways. Like if somebody's in Texas, they're not going to come all the way to northern Indiana, spend all that money to travel, risk it to, do
I
this
mean,
show that
Horatio
they've
was
never
here two
done.
years ago.
Right. And he was not under the emerging artist, or
He was not.
he was not. Yeah. So it's always a risk whenever you do a show
Right.
you haven't done,
We had an
but yeah, it's
emerging artist last year from Alaska.
wow.
Yeah.
They ship all their work, or did they travel in the plane with bins of
They
work?
they were down for maybe a wedding uh, in the Midwest, dropped off their pots, went back. That was like in June, and then they flew back in September.
Wow. Hopefully they
Yeah.
didn't have to fly back with too much.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that worked out, I guess.
That's always the risky run, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like going to, conferences and stuff with pots. It's like, "Ooh, I don't want to have to bring back a lot. I would love to get rid of this stuff."
Yeah.
Becca, do you want to do a maker of the moment?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we should do that. Ryan and I are not going to participate today, but we've put Trevor on the spot.
So
Yeah.
for
And
folks that aren't familiar, maker of the moment, we try to highlight someone that we believe needs more recognition. Maybe they got usually our barometer is about 10,000 followers or less on Instagram, but we share it. And whenever we have, at least in the last handful of episodes we've had interviews, we've given the opportunity to whoever we're having on to provide someone that they think they want to highlight as maker of the moment. And then we share it on our Instagram,
Cool.
get some attention to it. So, Trevor, take it away. Who do you got?
Yeah, Brett Sov, and my apologies, Brett, if I'm mispronouncing your last name, is out of the Detroit area. And he's someone who started getting plugged in with us in Northern Indiana over the last 5-ish years or so. His friend Sadie Mishuk, who's an artist here, has him down for Pottery Tour. And during the pandemic, he was coming to wood firings and hanging out. But he makes these awesome sculptures of faces, and he puts them on mugs. He makes them life size of these creatures, sometimes of I think cartoon characters or comic book characters. I know he's got a Batman out there somewhere. Um,
Mm,
but the reason that I came to love Brett's work was when we had wood fires here. Everybody's kind of subtly fighting for position in the wood kiln, of where they want their pots to be. And Brett's putting these beautiful caricatures and faces down in the bottom where the wood gets stacked, put into the kiln. And so at the end, you're just getting these gnarly pieces out that have been, had ash sitting on them for over a week. Uh, and we're just really cool. And I love just how each of his pieces tells a story, and he's super talented with other mediums too. But you should definitely go check out Brett's work. It's worth a follow on Instagram.
So it's
He's really good at
Brett.
drawing too.
Yeah, there's a lot of drawings in here.
Yeah.
It's Brett Sauve art on Instagram. So you can look him up there. Yeah, a lot of colorful drawings in the most recent mix. So a lot of these that are shown, it looks like a bat. So it looks like a lot of them are about 8 to 10 inches tall, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I imagine putting them like on a bookshelf or,
Yeah.
I would love to have one next to our fireplace or something.
So which is he going to be at Pottery Tour this year?
He'll be at Sadie's. Yep,
At Sadie's, which is that one in South Bend or Goshen or
in Goshen.
in Goshen?
And he's a cat dad. You can bond with him, Ryan.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know that I've met him before. I think I went to Sadie's Stop a couple years ago, but he might not have been there at that point.
God, his cat is so stinking cute.
All right, so that's Brett. All right, let's see. Becca, let's see. What question do you got for Trevor? Whether it's
Well, I
clay lines related or not, or process or whatnot.
well, actually, I don't have a question first. I just wanted to say that I think it's really okay. People probably don't know this. I don't know, but I met Trevor for the first time at the Indiana Clay Conference many moons ago. I don't even know how long that was ago. 2021, probably, right?
Yep.
And you were so shy and so like overstimulated. And then we had you on the podcast, and I was like, who the fuck is this person? And then because
That
you
would
were
have been the
so
same year,
different.
November of 21. I mean, it probably would have
Yeah.
been right around the same
Yeah,
time.
right.
Yeah. And you were so different on the podcast. And then now you're just like, I don't want to say blossomed because that sounds like you're a teenage girl. But um but it's really cool to see like the progression, and I think that you're the perfect individual to be in charge of what you're doing right now. And God forbid, I think you've found your calling. Um, but
Well,
yeah,
thank
I
you.
think it's very impressive I know you have a background in like tech and all that crap and stuff like that,
Yep.
um, but it's just really impressive to see you kind of like jump in to the deep end and just go for it. I don't know about Ryan, but whenever I see somebody that's like, I'm gonna go full time, I'm like, good fucking luck. Like, and you really did it. So I think that's really cool. Um,
Yeah, and I'll just pause to say that like I still have plenty of moments, of course, and
oh, obviously.
the obviously this, but just to say, being backed by this group of people here has just helped my confidence.
Yeah.
They've largely been overwhelmingly supportive, and that makes it easier to come on here and act like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all
No,
of
my
those
calf.
leadership
Okay,
opportunities
there we go.
build on one another, and it's hard to know in the moment that like this is what this is going to be useful for down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, at least for me, for like the Clay Alliance is voluntary. So I'm like, I get to be a treasurer of this organization. Like you're getting all this exposure and like experience where there's not a lot of risk because it's volunteer, but it's
Right.
also like you're getting skills that you can selfishly use for a lot of different things.
And I'm also just super aware that to have an opportunity like this that is with clay is rare.
Yeah.
There's other things you can do to be in a leadership role in business or in other things, but to do it with clay, I mean, I think that's pretty awesome. So trying to make the most of it.
Yeah. I do have a question. I have two kind of questions. One is more of a shallow question, and the next one is more in depth. But as far as like having a nonprofit and being the executive whatever, of it. Like, are you doing all this stuff like pro bono, or is this something that you're paid for? Because I know that nonprofits, you can still get paid for something. You just kind
Oh.
of, yeah, you just kind of like cancel out at the end.
Mhm.
So that's my question.
Yeah, so I mean, there's been a lot of volunteer work, and in those early days when we were paying a lawyer to get ourselves set up and all of that, I mean, I was
Yeah,
footing the bill for that
yeah,
stuff, for a lot of those things in the beginning. Um, what the arrangement that we have created is that it's my stipend for my work. It's not a
yeah.
salary, it's a stipend, is tied to the fundraising. So
Great.
if I'm out there doing my job,
Hmm.
I'm, going to make a little money doing this.
Like a percentage. Yeah,
Right. It's
yeah,
not a lot. We set a budget at the beginning of the year and we check in halfway. Certainly the goal is for this to be a full-time thing for me in the
yeah.
future, but that stuff just doesn't happen overnight, particularly when you're trying to build a healthy organization.
Yeah. P.S.
Hmm.
I want you to get paid. I don't want you like, yeah. I think it's very healthy to be paid in certain situations, especially when you're putting so much work towards it.
Yep.
My next question, surprise, surprise, I have more questions, is how do you feel like so it's been 3 years being the man of the nonprofit. How do you I've noticed a change in your ceramics, but I want to see how you feel about if it's affected a change in the way that you kind of like approach your ceramics and like the way you're designing things or the way that you maybe care less or more, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those early days for me, 2020, 2021. Uh, First part of 2022, I had one kid. Uh, I wasn't doing this, and I had just jumped in. So
Yeah.
my energy level was through the roof, and I think that my work reflected that. I was all over the place,
Yeah.
just trying to make stuff. Now. Certainly, I'm far busier with two kids and a lot of professional responsibilities. And to me, the good thing that's come out of that is a high level of intentionality in the studio. Like if I go in there, I've got to make the most of that time. If I'm not doing orders and it's my chance to decide what I'm going to make, then I need to be focused on making the most of that time because it's pretty rare these days. So I'd say I'm happier with my work than I've ever been before. And if there's any tension there, it's just that I can't make more of it.
Hmm.
Also, a third, not question. Uh, I feel like you need to update your profile picture on your Instagram. It's
Yeah, the
been
hair comes
years.
and goes.
Now I need to see what it looks like.
It's the one of him in the plaid shirt. I love it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, there's a mane there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. You got some good ones from the pottery. I feel like you get pretty good pictures from Pottery Tour
I
year
will
after
say
year
that
with you
that's
all
one
having
of the things we have
photographers
spent
there.
money on each year has been hiring a professional photographer to come and take pictures, which we then make available to the artists.
Oh yeah,
For them you can use those pictures throughout the year for all different kinds
I've
of
used
stuff.
those photos
Oh
for
my
sure.
God. Oh my God. Last year it was on Halloween, right? And I think it was on Halloween.
What was that? No,
And
it's in September, Becca. Are you talking about when the things got shared? Pottery Tour is always at the end of September.
oh no, it wasn't Halloween, but it was right when everybody was doing all those photos with the sheets and their glasses over them and the I can be the only one, that song. And
Our
I
algorithms
made
may be different, but I'm
Yeah,
with you.
well,
it's a like a
mine is
meme
very
moment or something.
annoying. Mine is very annoying, but I made the photographer take a picture of me with a plaid sheet with my glasses on top of it, just like looking into
I
the
feel like I kind of
distance.
remember seeing that photo at one point.
Yeah. I feel really bad for that photographer for our stop. Me and Cody were inside and yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious. You did mention just being more intentional, like determining where that line is of how much time do I, because there's always more work to be done on the organization.
Yeah.
Like, and there's so many tasks that go unnoticed. There's so much that, you know, you can decide, do I want to delegate this? Do I want to ask somebody to do this versus me just do it myself? Or, okay, what are the goals for the org as a year level? So it's like, okay, this is good enough. This is what we need to do versus, I need to dedicate time to my own practice and just finding that balance.
Yeah.
Um, did you have to just delineate certain times a day and also have them family? So like that kind of cuts into the days, but do you have dedicated days to focus on different things, or is it just kind of at will?
The good thing about, trying to be organized and setting a calendar with our board is that the work is very predictable. Grant writing season is always January, February, March.
Mm,
I know our calendar of events, and I know kind of working back, like pottery tour work is 6 months, but like this event that we have on Saturday, it's kind of only, a month lead up. Um, and it's kind of the same for our holiday event that kind of takes over after pottery tour. So that predictableness is really helpful to just staying sane and getting the work done. There's also just part of it that I'm accountable to other people. And if push comes to shove, I probably need to make sure I do the work for the people who have paid us as opposed to, whatever my own desire
your
is.
own ambitions and
Yeah.
yeah, like, oh, I gotta keep making work. Because I feel like you hear about people that are, I want to say teachers as well, of like, or running studios, people
Yeah.
that have their own studios, like community studios, and like finding ways to, like, you open the studio for the greater good of that community and offering classes, and you want to build a culture of, people that are learning together and all this stuff, and just finding, you always hear the stories of, I didn't realize how much time I was not going to have to myself to make my own stuff.
Yeah.
And it
And
just,
I mean, that's part of it for me as a, serial entrepreneur and someone who loves the challenge of business is that I look at this through the lens of I get to do business from a clay perspective. But you also have to have people who say, no, I am focused on making work. And you have to have everybody kind of on that spectrum to have a
Yeah.
healthy community. So, my skills lend itself to the business side. But, if we didn't have some of these individuals who have been so focused on making great work, we wouldn't have the notoriety as a region that we do. So you got to
you're
have
right.
have everybody, right? And you got to have
Hmm.
amateurs that you want to bring along and all that.
I have something off topic a little bit, not really, but a question. Have you considered or puzzled the opportunity for the artists at the pottery tour to see the other artists? Like, because that's like my one bummer of and I would imagine of any pottery tour, is that it's hard to see. Like, I've never even been to Dickelman's house. Like, I and
Because some of them
and
are in one spot and it's just a big field and you can see everybody's because you can somehow get around. But if it's different
yeah,
stops, it's
that's
really
Dick
hard.
Layman for the people that aren't in the know. Um, please don't hurt me. Um, what is funny though is that a couple years ago, Grant, his son, came to our stop, and I was like, "You're Grantleman." He was like, "Yes." Anyway, yeah, have you considered that? Or I mean, like, is that a thought, or is it a like an impossibility as far as like your brain is concerned? Because it's an impossibility in my brain. I just haven't,
Yeah. Not the first time you've asked me this, Becca.
that's true. This is true.
To be fair, on Friday night we have a gathering where you
Yeah.
get to see the artists. You don't really get to see their work.
Yeah, which I think is great.
We've talked about, yeah, can we really say everybody bring a couple pots, make trading a part of that Friday night
Yeah.
experience. Um, I always take it from the mindset of selling pots during
Hmm.
Pottery Tour. I want to see that collective sales number go up, and I think it's going to be really hard if people are not present by their pots.
Agree.
Um,
And
yeah,
yeah, because
so
I
finding
like,
that time frame is tough.
yeah, and like the only thing I can think of that has been done in the past of something uh was when I when I was little, we used to have a neighborhood garage sale. And if you would like, the night before the garage sale, everybody would do like a carpool to everybody's house and like see everybody's stuff and could buy stuff if they wanted to, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, like, it's so much work to do that, especially at something like a pottery tour because
Yeah, there's so many stops. Like I
there's
don't know
so many
like
stops.
what's the mileage to
It's
take
like
the shortest route to
10,000
hit
miles.
everything?
Right.
Like it's probably 60, 80 miles just to hit everything if you didn't stop, or I don't know what it is,
Right.
but
Yeah, I mean, from our furthest west to our furthest kind of northeast or furthest east, yeah, it would be
Yeah.
a good hour.
And there's one north too, because there's one in Michigan, right? So,
Two in Michigan now. Yeah.
oh, two. Yeah. Oh, because
Troy?
yeah, Troy's the stop a stop now, right?
Yeah.
That's
Troy
exciting.
Bungart.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I always
He's a
loved
good one.
Mark's stop, and was it
Yeah.
Constantine? Is that the
Right.
city?
And Troy is just 5 miles up the road, so it's a really good fit.
Okay.
Nice.
I
Yeah.
remember Troy's been at Mark's stop of
Yep.
the couple times I've seen that.
Yeah. And that's going to help us. Troy is really plugged into Kalamazoo and kind of
Mm-hmm.
Michigan to the northwest and north, and we just don't have that. So we're really
Yeah.
excited. Hopefully, he's going to bring in kind of a new audience.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Plus, he does a lot of the shows in the mid area of Michigan. So, like, if he had flyers or whatever, he could pass those
Yep.
out, or which is something that not as many like Michigan's a pretty tall state. It's a tall state.
Yep.
How would you what's kind of the mixture of the artists that are in the tour, because it seems like there's probably a variety of more like exhibition style artists versus, art show artists versus, maybe they do more um online sales only. Like what's kind of the cross section?
For Pottery Tour only.
Sure.
Yeah. I would say those that are exhibition focused, that's a fairly small group. Um, Maybe more so amongst really our most experienced artists, although we have a couple who are younger who have, found a foothold there. Um, it is interesting. We are, I think people are tired of online, and so that number has changed. Um, if you were to ask me 2 years ago, I would have said that that percentage of online folks is much higher. Um, I also don't think we have a ton of craft show people per se, at least who are on a regular circuit. Maybe three or
Hmm.
four a year, but not 10 or 15.
Right.
That's probably similar to the exhibition size, would be my guess. Maybe 10 and 10 and 40. Um, yeah, it's interesting how those things have changed. I mean, even for me promoting the events, I've noticed in the last year it's harder to find stuff on Instagram to share that's, worth putting out there from our artists because I think they're tired. I mean, I think that's just, you're not seeing as many creative reels or,
Oh, you mean like reposting artists
yeah,
that are in the tour,
yep,
sharing it on the Michiana Pottery Tour to get that engagement of,
yep,
hey, they're going to be here. You might want to come visit. Here's the stop they're going to be at, kind of thing.
yep. And I'm also curious, I mean, it seems like because online sales were so good during that period a couple years ago that I think a lot of people intentionally grew their mailing list, and that I think is still a pretty good way to go. If you've got an engaged audience that wants to know when you have new pots, I think that there's still space for that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of because usually I kind of fall in that craft show for the most part kind of circuit. Not
Yep.
circuit, but it sounds a little bit more advanced than I kind of stick within a couple 2 to 3 hours of the city, but um, getting advertising and being like, "Hey, here's my shows I've got coming up." It's hard to connect of, are they willing to drive up to the pottery tour, but also it's a good way to be like, "Hey, this show is different because it's all clay and it's people that are all around the country. Like you're not going to see that mixture of people at a show
Yeah,
like
and
a
I found
normal art show, you know.
that a really powerful message for us is that you're going to see some museum quality work on this tour, and there are no tickets. And for families, that's a big selling point. For elderly, that's a selling point that, I can point to a handful of artists who have their works in national museums here, and you get to just walk in and see where they make their pots.
Hmm.
And that's pretty powerful these days when experiences are more expensive and, all of that stuff. So that's been a good message for us too.
Yeah, being able to see the actual studios is a big pro because I don't I mean I guess some of the other tours are kind of like that. Some of them are in like field. I'm thinking like the Minnesota Pottery Tour
Sure.
is one
Yeah.
that I think that's more in like one shared space that's outdoor, and they have the 10 by 10s kind of thing. But there are some around. I think Milwaukee, maybe. I think Andrew Linderman's participated in something like that, where it's like going to the studios and
Yeah.
popping around. I don't know about St. Croix or any of those, but
It's it's a highly personal experience here for the Michiana Pottery Tour, which has its benefits and its drawbacks. Some people don't like how much they have to travel, or not all of us have handicap accessible parking and things like that, which are when you start talking about a grant, uh,
hmm
funded organization, that's part of the equation for us. So there's a lot of considerations and benefits to both.
Mm. I actually have you ever considered getting like go-karts and stuff? Not go-karts, but what are those
like
things? Golf
a
carts.
motorized oh, a golf cart. I thought you were thinking
Like a
like
golf
motorized
cart.
cart at
Like
the
at
grocery store.
the places that aren't like handicap accessible, is that like a consideration that you guys have thought of, or is that
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
know.
I would love to really shore that up. It's, our answer now has just been to say on our map, these are the places to go.
Right, these are
Be
accessible.
upfront about it.
Yeah.
Um, it goes into that consideration of renting 10 golf carts. Do our members understand that that's a cost? So do they
Yeah.
want to pay another $25, on their
Yeah.
membership fees? Like those are the things that
Yeah.
Hmm.
from my perspective in my role, then the messaging has to be really clear about why those things are happening.
That may be a 10-year goal, like when you have to,
Yeah, and a lot of them are not in like there's not a lot of room to be moving around because like
yeah.
your spot, people there's not a lot of you're parking on the street
Yeah,
or one's in like a neighborhood, residential neighborhood, and you got it. So there's not a lot of space to be moving around. It's not like somebody's parking in a lot and you're shuttling them over.
right.
Yeah.
So it definitely is a logistical challenge of, hey, what do
Yeah,
we do about this? How high on the priority list is it to get this versus saying, oh, we just need to like not have this stop because it's just too inaccessible
yeah.
and shifting things. Whoop. Hey folks. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk about our newest sponsor, the Ceramic Shop. We're so happy to have them joining us. They wanted us to talk about our product section of their website. So I don't know if you know, they obviously sell a lot of other products from different companies like Speedball. We've talked about that, L&L Kilns, but they have a section on their website called Our Products. Those are ones that they've designed and made in-house. They've got some of the common things that you'd expect, like glazes. They've got stilts. They've got some kiln posts, but they've also got some that maybe you've heard of, maybe you've used before. You didn't know that they actually produce them. But they've got hydro bats. Those are the plaster bats that you'd throw on. A lot of people throw plates on them. They range all the way from, let's see, I'm looking right now. They've got all the way down to 10 inches up to, oh, actually, they've got hydro bat minis. They go down to 6 inches, actually. 6-inch hydro bat all the way up to 20 inches is what I'm seeing on their website. So these are ones you might want to throw plates on it. They dry more evenly. You can pop them off easier. You can get to the trimming quicker. And then some of the other products that maybe you've heard of and heard people had success with them is the wax off and wax on products. Wax on is your more traditional wax. That would be one that you would paint on. You would leave it on through the firing, and then you would it's that the purple bottle. I was talking with Isaac recently, and he was raving about that. He's been using that for a while. So that's your more traditional wax, and the wax off product is a wax latex kind of hybrid. So that would be one that you might paint over a, let's say, a stamp or something like that, maybe a logo, and you want to peel that off before you put it in the kiln so that it doesn't fire along with that. So that would be more your, similar to some folks that use latex. If you've seen some of that where they get that really nice satisfying peel. And the wax off product, you might have seen that one as well. That's the orange bottle. So wax off is orange, wax on is purple. If you're looking at different people's videos and you see some of those colors, that might indicate they might be using that product. So give them a look. Go to the Our Product section of the website. You can see all the things that they offer. All that's in-house. And if you want to save a few bucks, you can use Wheel Talk's code, which is Wheel Talk 10, capital W, Wheel Talk, the number 10, and you'll save $10 off your order of $75 or more on theceramicshop.com. And I'm going to try to do the jingle. It's not going to be as good as Becca, I promise you, but I'm going to give it a shot anyways. I already messed this up once, so we'll see. It's a one-stop shop. theceramicshop.com. All right, let's get back to the episode. Becca, you asked about the few, like, about the long term. Like, what do you see for the organization maybe in 5 years, 10 years? Like, what do you all hope it to be down the road? And
What's
thinking
your
about
business plan?
Yeah, I mean, as far as hopes and dreams are that I just want there to be more opportunity for people to come here and make pots. It's really tough here. We have very little housing. Um, it's just tough to find a place to live and work and make pots, despite
hmm
despite what we have here. So answering that question is really top of mind for me, and that's a holistic thing. You can't just put studio space out there. Those college graduates or people who are moving here, they have to have a place to live, and it has to be affordable in some way. Um, or they're going to be using all of their creative energy working another job, and then they don't
mm-hmm.
get into the studio and make pots, and the cycle just gets broken, and you don't get people to stay. And what has made this such a great place to be is that people have stayed. Um, but I also recognize that like those of us who own a home and own a studio and have access to it all the time, like we're really lucky, and that's not
mm
the norm. So trying to figure out that is something that's really top of mind for me over the next decade. Um,
Maybe a commune?
right. I mean that's one of the things that is in my mind of we make hundreds of thousands of RVs here every year. Could we
Yes.
could we turn those into tiny homes and, build a community somewhere where people can come and live and work and
Dance around the fire and like,
Maybe
yeah,
there's
hell
some
yeah.
pots in
You
that
should put
fire.
put that in
right.
the grant. Be like, we're going to be doing fire dances.
Yeah.
Um,
Group
that would be so
campfiring.
cool.
Right. I think we have the infrastructure for that in the future. The other part of it is creating our own revenue. We're trying to think about a physical space and what that might look like for us as an organization. That's really the next step for a nonprofit. When you start out and you don't have a physical space and you're operating out of a PO box at the post office,
Yeah.
for some people it's really hard to kind of put that all together. You're you have 100 members and they're all over the United States, but it's focused here and who's in charge and those are all questions that sometimes just having an actual address solves. As well, having a physical space will allow us to generate our own revenue. And I am assuming that most of the granting opportunities we depend on are at least going to decrease, if not fully go away for the foreseeable future. So having other revenue opportunities aside from memberships and aside from donors is going to be really important for us. So having a physical space solves that in theory.
It's very forward thinking of you.
Yeah, I mean, I am sometimes glass quarter full. And sometimes that serves me well, and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, those are the two things, accessibility for people who want to make pots, and revenue for us as an organization. I think both of those come together to just say we have to nurture individuals who want to make pots, or all of this work that we've done over the last 50 years for this to be a destination. It's not hard to imagine it going away.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened by accident, and we have to continue with that mindset of giving people opportunity, and stuff.
If you do have a physical shop, could you please position it close to a pretzel place?
Joke's on you. We've got a number of them downtown, so it'd be
I know.
Oh my gosh, Becca was talking about this pretzel place. Or Rachel maybe, I don't know. Somebody got some pretzels
yes, Rachel and Becca both got pretzels, I remember.
last year, and I don't know that I got one of them. Or
Dude,
Says how
maybe they
good they
were
were.
like a day old or something. I don't know. I feel like I
yeah,
did.
I got like 8 of them and drove back with them. That's how fucking good those pretzels are.
Gotta love the
Magic.
pretzels.
I went to Goshen in 2020, right before COVID hit. And I met with Jen, my friend Jen. She lives up in Toledo
Hmm.
now. But
Love Jen.
and
She's
yeah,
awesome.
That
and I
Jen
got a
Beachy.
pretzel. Yeah, Jennifer Beachy. And I got a pretzel on my way out. And I'm not kidding when I tell you that every day since that day I thought about that pretzel. And
Love it.
until I went back to Shipshawana and got another one, and then 10.
Mm.
I
I'll have to
so good.
message Jen and tell her she was invoked on the podcast.
Yes,
She lives on.
she does
Yeah.
live on always. I love her.
So with like committing to something as big as a space, like how what is the approval process of the group that's like, hey, we're gonna sign this lease for this amount of money? Like, how do you get a? Is that just a board thing? Like, hey, this is what we have on the table. This is the risk we're involving ourselves in. Like, how do you? Is that process different than just because you don't necessarily need membership approval, but I guess it's like board approval kind of stuff of like these are the options on the table that we can play around with, or okay, we
Right.
agree to we need to fund half of it and we need to get a loan for half of it, or
Yep.
grants
There's very
nailed
much
down.
I mean, in my mind, a right way to do this and a wrong way, and the right way is long, and it is expensive and tiresome, and that's what we're trying to do, and that involves hiring a consultant and making a strategic plan and kind of gaming out all of these outcomes of, it's generally frowned upon for a nonprofit to have a loan. So, you're going to want to try and own it outright. Um,
Mm,
Wow.
so there's a lot of
dang.
considerations there.
You can't be negative profit in a nonprofit? How rude.
We're,
How
we're we're
rude.
really fortunate to have, a community that has a strong history of philanthropy, and gonna try
Yeah.
and put it to the test and see what it looks like. But as far as the process goes of approval, I mean it's a board level decision. But what we've done is send out surveys to members, uh, gauging their interest in, if we had programming, what kind of programming would you like? If we had teaching opportunities where you could generate your own revenue, and teach the community, would you be interested in that? If we sold clay, what are your needs?
Hmm.
So when you go through that process of collecting a lot of data and having a lot of conversations, you're going to arrive with an answer. Might not be the answer you want, and that's yet to be seen for us. But
Hmm.
if you go about through that process, it's going to present itself. And I think in our case, going out and trying to solicit funds for something like this, you're going to have to have done that work. Someone's not
Hmm.
going to just give you a check, without having that background done. So,
Is there
yeah,
like a North Star place that you think of that is a nonprofit that is like something you're aiming toward? Like a
you know, there,
specific entity that is actively
yeah,
a thing?
there's not many places that are a combination clay supply and kind of the whole gamut of clay life. there tends to be one or the other, or like two of the three of clay supply, residency, and community classes. There's certainly some that I look at it on Instagram that I think do a great job of kind of hitting each of those marks. Northern Clay Center
That's
is
what, yeah,
one.
that's what I had in mind, but I was like, I don't know if they're nonprofit or not, or
Yeah. Yeah, and again, status is would be a big question for each of these. It seems like Clay Lady Campus is doing a great job.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
that place is
Um,
amazing. I just
yeah,
went there for a workshop. It's so
yeah.
nice.
And Companion Gallery in Tennessee, that's not clay supply, but from making it work with a small space, I'm not sure anybody does a better job than Eric of his pictures are beautiful, his shows are great. I know that he gets people in there for residency on, high level artists on a constant basis.
And he's in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
too. Like to make it work in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Tennessee. Pff,
Yeah. So, I mean, those are all, great examples. And of course, the Union Project in
Mm,
Pittsburgh that Justin helped start is a great example of what a city can do who has resources to say this is a priority for us to make this a space for art. That goes a
hmm
long way. Yeah.
hmm Nice. What are you personally looking forward to in your work in the short to midterm?
I mean, Pottery Tour is one of my favorite weekends. It's just, it's a lot of work that comes together. And to see, I mean, that Friday night gathering when there's all those
Mm,
people there just hanging out and to see such a spectrum of skill level and design choices and personalities and lifestyle and like all of these things and you just see people hanging out like
hmm
that's
mhm.
such a highlight of my year. um, so I really look forward to that from kind of a studio work perspective. This coming school year, once the kids are back at school, I'll have a little more space, which hopefully means more soda firings. We've got Indiana Clay Conference this fall, which is always an exciting time to see what's going on in our state. We're really lucky to have a really strong academic tradition in clay in Indiana. So, this year it's at Ball State, and you'll have
Okay.
a
I was wondering if
professor.
it was in Fort Wayne or not. Ball State is not in Fort Wayne, is it?
It's in Muncie, which is
It's in
Okay.
Muncie.
in between Fort Wayne and Indianapolis. Ted Neal,
Yeah,
who is, the best kiln builder, I think, in the
ever.
world,
Mm.
as far as I'm concerned. He'll
Yeah,
be hosting, but you'll have,
Oh, wow.
professors from Purdue, Fort Wayne, from Notre Dame, from IU, from Evansville, from small colleges. I think that's
yeah,
pretty cool. So those are
yeah.
two fall things that are coming up that I'm excited about.
Ball
Brian
State.
Merritt and Sarah Anderson both went to Ball State and had TED.
Oh, okay. I saw that
Yeah,
Sarah Anderson was one of the presenters, I think.
Yeah, she's gonna do, I think, Sgraffito.
Okay.
yeah.
For Ball
If you ever
State.
get the chance in the future, Merritt would be a phenomenal presenter. It would be tough to pin
hmm
her down, but
Speaking
she's
this into the ether so we can.
maybe this residency will like help her get better at like being okay with being in like public speaking and stuff. Not that she's bad. I think she's amazing.
Hey, you've got a Sarah
Um,
shirt on. I see that.
I do. Yeah. Yeah, rootin' tootin', boots be scootin'. Um, but yeah, Merritt and like both Merritt and Sarah, like they're best friends anyway. So, and like, they're both great. Uh, they both have their very strong qualities about each of them. And yeah, Sarah's a great choice, and then Merritt would be a really good choice as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was scrolling through the website for the Indiana Clay Conference. I saw your name, Becca. It's like because they have the schedule from 2021 on here as a sample.
Yeah. Yeah, me, Rebecca, and Josh, we all like just sat on the stage.
Right.
Yeah, it was a good combo though. That's
Yep.
good.
Yeah. So for folks that want to come out to Pottery Tour, when is it? Where is it? And yeah, how can they find out more about the Northern Indiana Clay Alliance?
Yep, let's start with Clay Alliance. That's Northern Indiana Clay Alliance can find more at indianaclay.org website and on social media, indianaclay.org, O-R-G. Um, would love to connect with anyone who's interested in clay. You don't have to be in Northern Indiana to be a member, and if you want to be a part of our shows, all you have to do is sign up. Pretty straightforward there, and I think the barrier to entry is pretty low. It's a great opportunity to get plugged in with a bunch of people who want to make pots and be in community together. Michiana Pottery Tour is the last weekend of September, September 27th and 28th this year. It's at 10 locations across northern Indiana and southwest Michigan. 62 artists this year, I think. And it starts Saturday morning at 10 and runs through the evening on Sunday. And it's a great opportunity to see a huge cross section of artists, young and old. We have internationally known and celebrated artists. We have up and coming folks, people who have made pots for a long time, and people who are just getting their hands into it. And it's a really cool opportunity to see a wide range of artists. And to me, it's inspiring. If you're interested in getting into clay, it's a great chance to see how people make it work, professionally and as a hobby, both.
It's in Goshen. Like this, it's centered in Goshen, I feel like, and then it spans out from there. It's not just in Goshen, but that's a good pinpoint if you want to look at it on a map.
Yep. Northern
Like
Indiana, South Bend, Goshen, Shipshewana,
Shipshewana, yeah.
a
Mhm.
handful up in Michigan too. So
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be back at Trevor Stop in Goshen. Hopefully Isaac will be there. He's been missing out. He's had some important reasons why he's missed, but hopefully he'll be there this year. I feel like
yeah,
you've kind of got Karina on board to make sure that they get
yeah,
there.
they've
So
been busy, uh,
a little bit, just a little bit.
but I'm excited. Isaac's gonna make some wall mugs. I've pinned him
Mm.
down, to stop complaining about pumpkins and make some
He
wall
just finished his
mugs.
1,000th, so I mean
Uh,
he's on wall. He's got
and
some time.
Karina will bring candles and all the things that she does. Ryan will be there. Jessica Brandel from Western Michigan will be there. I love
Mm.
Jessica's work. She's incredibly talented. Sarah Anderson, who we were just talking about, will be there. Of course, Sarah's pots are colorful and full of life, and she's one of the best people. And then Noel Burkhart is an emerging artist scholarship who will be with us. Noel is based out of the Fountain Clay Center in Indianapolis, and
Mm.
their sculptural pots are unbelievable. And I'm so pumped that Noel will be up here. Uh, Noel and her dad, Glenn, who I think is one of the coolest humans ever, came to our soda firing workshop last year, and got plugged in with us, and then wanted to get involved up here. So should be a great group. I'm always excited.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Lots of pots to be seen and bought, and it's a different experience for sure as a participant versus I kind of mentioned this earlier, but being in an all clay show versus a typical art show that I would sell at is
Yep.
it's different. And also it's fun to talk to the customers that are more knowledgeable about pots and they understand and they can add they like see that and they're like, "Oh, that's soda, right?" And
Right.
they kind of know the difference between
Yeah. Some of these people who have been coming for, 13, 14 years, you can't fool them. They're not your
Yeah.
average person who walks up. They've been collecting for a decade or more, and they want to talk to you about your pots, which is awesome.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good challenge as well to, you know, challenge you to talk about your work at a different level than
Yep.
just the person just walking by. Like they're seeking you out. So
Yep.
it's really nice. Definitely an honor to be in that group. Anything else, Becca, before we sign off with Trevor? Appreciate you joining us once
Um,
again, for sure.
yeah. I would say that also, if you're listening to this and you do ever go to Michiana Pottery Tour, I think that one of the things that like I know this sounds dumb, but don't focus on the money the first time you go. The first,
If you're a
like,
participating artist, you're saying?
yeah, if you're a participating artist, don't focus on the money and focus on the people that you're going to be with, because the money is like, in my opinion, second to the community and the fun and like the knowledge that you're going to gain while you're there. Because, like you said, there's some phenomenal artists, and like, yeah, it'd be great to make a couple grand, whatever. But also, like, it's so great just to hang out with the people that you're with, and like develop friendships and develop
Hmm.
like all that community. Like, oh my God, it's just awesome. So
Yeah, the
I
time
that's
Friday night, time after the show Saturday, all
yeah,
that time is just as valuable as the actual like dollars and cents that you get
if not
from
more,
selling.
honestly, if not more. So, like, I look at it as an event that I'm going to be connecting at, and then yeah, if I make some money, that's great. So, I think that that's what I would suggest. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's always good to talk to you,
Yeah.
Trevor.
Yeah, yeah, appreciate it. Good luck with your soda
Thanks
firing
for
this week.
coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll see some of those pots coming up here soon at the tour.
Yep.
And, you know, always good to see you all. I mean, don't get up to Goshen that often, but it's always nice to get up there and reconnect and all that good stuff. So,
And buy a pretzel.
oh, yes, I got to get the pretzel
Get the
before it's
pretzels.
closed. I think it was closed on Sunday or something, or it had limited hours,
Yeah.
so we couldn't get it, but we'll get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thanks
Okay.
everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to another episode of Wheel Talk. This podcast is made possible through the contributions of all of our listeners who always ask us great questions, leave us reviews, and contact with us through social media. Thanks to all the fellow makers as well who take time to be interviewed and share about their lives and businesses.
And thank you to Ashley from Boldover Ceramics and Lindy from Lindy Garner Ceramics for their assistance on the Whale Talk Podcast Instagram. You are invaluable. Thank you to everybody.